This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Today, New York City look to snap a 4-match winless streak as they hit the road to take on Charlotte FC. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
All right, I guess it's time to bop. We do oftentimes in our pregame live, the PA is blasting out this wonderful dance music. Actually, this is pretty good. Sometimes it's a bit disconcerting, I think, the music. Matty, how are you?
I'm very well. Well, the fireworks were disconcerting, that's for certain. We've been absolutely bombarded with fireworks, not actually in our booth, but certainly around us. It's maybe not the time or the place right now.
Well, we're here for a soccer match, but there's a football game here tomorrow as well. So I'm Glenn Crooks, Matty Lawrence. We have the live commentary for you beginning at 12:45. The New York City FC Network, the New York City FC app, and the TuneIn app. And in the meantime, we're going to help get you ready right here from the stadium. We've got a couple of words from Nick Cushing, also Christian Latanzio, the opposition coach who used to work here for New York City FC. And Nick Cushing will talk about Thiago Martins and the suffering from the 1-1 draw against Cincinnati. It's something I think worth talking about and defining and correcting. So in Nick's words, we'll hear about that. And also Gideon Zelalem. There's some news on Gideon today. We'll get to that later. And Keaton Parks, almost 100%, is going to play his first game since a 3-0 loss to the New York Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena in the U.S. Open Cup. But let's hold on. I'm gonna give you a chance to see what we have here today in terms of. Let me get the bigger picture. And okay, well, I'm trying here. All right, where are we? Okay, so if you look closely, there are football lines which are in white, and then you can see the heavy-duty lines. And in a football field is 55 yards wide, and then the yellow lines are for the soccer here today. So that's kind of what we're looking at. It's interesting. They made an announcement yesterday, and let me see if I can. I'm not sure why I can't get this on the full screen. This thing is raising havoc with me today. Let's see if I do. No, that doesn't do it. How about this? Aha! All right, thank you very much. So look, now you get a clearer picture, I think, with the close-up here. And this is a stadium that was built for football. The primary tenants are the Carolina Panthers, and Charlotte will have a soccer-specific stadium along the way. But for now, so they put out a little release yesterday. I wanted to warn everybody. So if you're watching the game today,
It's not second down.
It's a little bit, yeah. And I guarantee you I'm going to have at least one call today where I use the football lines. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. I got to do it, Matty. I got to do it,
we
man.
could combine it with Yankee Stadium as well. We could have got some guy having second down on the second baseline. So, yeah, we can't say a great deal, let's be honest.
Well, the additional aspect, two things, really. It's artificial surface, which if you're not used to playing on it in a regular basis, sometimes it takes maybe the first half to really get used to it. So we'll see how New York City handles that. And the weather conditions here are rather dismal. I mean, it's just raining, and we were going to walk the 3 blocks to the stadium from the hotel, and maybe we didn't have the proper gear either, but it was pouring rain, so we hopped in an Uber to get here. But so how about all these factors here, Matty? And knowing that New York City is still in 4th place, Charlotte is in 12th. Their expansion side, you don't expect them to qualify in their first year. New York City did not. Orlando City did not. But then you have franchises like Atlanta and Austin that did. So what are you looking at here today?
Well, Austin didn't.
Oh, Austin did. No. Forgive me. Atlanta did, and then they won the
LAFC did as well, didn't they? But yeah, look, I don't think any of the factors matter here today, Glenn, in terms of the football lines. the yellow lines of the soccer pitch are so obvious. That's not going to trouble the players. The rain is going to make the surface better, I feel. It will be a little bit zippier. I think the only thing that matters for me, if I was playing, would be the artificial surface.
Okay.
And getting used to different artificial surfaces. I know that American players or players in MLS are used to playing on artificial surfaces, but tell me if I'm wrong, every one is a little bit different, and they're either a little bit quicker, a little bit longer, have different amounts of either sand embedded in them or a little bit softer.
Yeah.
So, it would take a good 15, 20 minutes.
And we'll get an early read on how the ball bounces.
Absolutely.
That sometimes is the key element. Like, does it bounce heavily, like just almost on concrete, or does it land softly like grass, or does it deaden unlike grass, where maybe it's just too soft?
I think that's the only thing that matters, because you look down and none of the corner flags are fluttering at all. So there's absolutely no wind. Wind is a factor that players hate to play in the wind or with wind. The artificial surfaces are a worry. And also, of course, we know that there is a potential, Glenn, for storms to be rolling in as well, which obviously no player wants to be playing when there's thunder and lightning around. I think it's the 8-mile radius, isn't it? There's a lightning strike within 8 or 10 miles, I think, and then
I think it's 10. I think it's 10.
Players have to go off for 30 minutes if I'm not.
And they
wrong.
normally sound the alarm, or they have some sort of horn that will ignite. And
they're the only worries.
Well, the football here, they've only played once, New York City and Charlotte. And Charlotte, the expansion side, winning it 3-1 in a game where New York City, and it kind of mimics recent games where the first half, at least against New England, and then again against Cincinnati on Wednesday night at Citi Field, where some very good play in the first half, but the inability to finish their opportunities. And look, New York City, since the departure of Tati Castellanos, has 1 win in 9 matches. There's 2 draws in there as well. And one of the issues has been, and Matty, you know how important it is maybe you score the first goal, but getting the second and the third to essentially put the game away. In New York City, they had that chance on Wednesday against Cincinnati of the 1-1 draw and didn't do it.
Yeah, it just hasn't happened in a goal-scoring sense. But it hasn't happened at either end of the field, and that's a problem when you have major errors in both penalty areas, the attack and the defence, of course, and that has plagued NYCFC since Tati Castellanos left. And I don't think it's just relevant to Castellanos leaving. Castellanos leaving shouldn't affect individual mistakes defensively.
Right.
We know that taking Castellanos away affects the defending side from the front. We know that. We know that Ever doesn't defend as well, or Tyler Magno doesn't defend as well from the front. But some of the massive individual errors we've seen, that's got nothing to do with Castellanos, but it has all figured into that. Ronnie Dyler leaving, Castellanos leaving. It's played, which wreaks havoc on the side, because the results tell us that.
Yeah, and we'll hear from Nick Cushing on the pregame show about 12 minutes with the coach, and that'll be at 12:45, presented by Ford. And he talks about that. When you're a head coach, you almost despise talking about injuries or suspensions or the fact that you can't play the same lineup every match because of that. But it becomes, and you don't want it to ever be a self-fulfilling prophecy, but facts are facts. When you lose certain players and in certain positions on the field, when relationships are broken down, then that's when you make mistakes. That's when individuals make mistakes.
Of course, but on the playing devil's advocate, if you're winning all the games, you wouldn't be mentioning those suspensions and those injuries. But I do agree. Look, when you take away, especially the way MLS squads are built, when you take away your best players, your highest paid players, and you're having to fulfill a salary cap, if you take away Carlins, Martins, Castellanos, Parks, and we could go on, and now Martins is obviously suspended, of course you're not going to be anywhere near as good. It's only teams around the world like a PSG or a Real Madrid or Manchester City who can afford to lose major players and still be as nearly as good as they are. Man City can put out 2 starting 11s. NYCFC can't put anywhere near out 2 starting 11s that would be competitive at the MLS level. That's a fact. That's factual. That's got nothing to do with how the squad is built. That's got everything to do with the salary cap.
Yeah. right. So, well, we mentioned Martins a couple of times, and we've mentioned individual mistakes. So I brought up in our pregame show with Nick Cushing and playing a portion of that here when we talked about the Martins' own goal in the 22nd minute. It was such a difficult way to start the game, and New York City's response was fantastic. But let's just go through that a little bit, because then Martins later in the game is red carded for denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity for Sergio Santos, a reserve forward. But the focus here is the own goal. And I wonder, we go back to Thiago Martins, the own goal, 22 minutes in. I think one thing to note in particular is how team captain Sean Johnson came to him and said, we're going to get this back for you, or whatever the words were. But is it one of those situations where you're kind of taught early on, don't ever play it back directly towards the goal if you're playing back to the keeper?
No, I think we know how we use our goalkeeper. We want to play a possession game, and we use our goalkeeper to overload when the opposition press us with equal numbers. And we knew that Cincinnati would use their strikers and their number 10 to go 3v3 against us. So we wanted to use Sean so that we could come from one side to the other, and it worked in the game. It's a mistake. It's an individual error, and he tries to play it back to Sean. It goes in the goal. I said after, I'll accept that, because although it's disappointing, I asked the team to play this way, and if we make errors in those moments, the errors can be costly. And I agree. I think the reaction from the team in the moment, and then the reaction following it in the way that we played, is a huge positive for our team.
Yep, and Matty, you weren't on the trip to Dallas. I was with Sal Rosamilia, but we had an opportunity to go to training, and it was the first time, and they played three at the back in that game and ended up winning 1-0. But the one thing I noticed was Sean Johnson further out of the goal, and especially when you play three at the back, the goalkeeper, you've heard keeper sweeper, but indeed the keeper has to become more part of the game when you're playing three at the back. And it looked certainly, and I'm sure that's exactly what was going on, Johnson was out of the goal, positioning himself for the switch.
I kind of get it, but I don't. I have no idea why Sean Johnson's standing over the far side. Surely if Sean Johnson stands in the middle of the goal, Martins fizzes the ball back to him. He then takes a touch with his right foot out to his left to then hit the left back. I was discussing this with Tony Meola, and Tony Meola knows way more than me. He couldn't believe where Sean Johnson was standing. He didn't see any reason for Sean Johnson not to be in the middle of the goal. The ball gets fizzed in, as I say, to Johnson, takes a touch with the inside of his right foot, out onto his left, then he sweeps the ball out to
the only thing back. I would say with that, if we go back and look at it, if we did, and Maxime Chenot is like in a support position also, almost in that line and the ball just zips past him. And obviously Martins, the intended target is Sean Johnson, but he plays it probably without looking up and seeing it clearly. And what about, and this is what I asked Nick too. I mean, I recognize that in 100% of the cases, it's not always going to happen this way, but you've always been taught, don't play it directly back into the goal on a back pass to the keeper, because he could slip. He could, the ball could take a bad hop and go over his boot, or, whatever.
I think that was when you were 10, 11 and 12. And I think that was before the modern day goalkeeper playing with their feet. I think if you watch the best goalkeepers around the world, whether it be Neuer, Ederson, Alisson, they'll all receive the ball within the goalpost because they are so good with their feet. If we were worried about every single slip, we'd never make a pass backwards almost. I'm just surprised that Sean Johnson was that far away from his goal. What happened? Because then you could say, what happens if Charlotte robbed the ball, then they're rolling the ball into an empty net? I know that the culpability lies at the feet of, excuse the pun, at the feet of Thiago Martins, because you pick your head up and you look to see where the recipient of your pass is.
But one of the reasons he played the ball is there was some sort of pressure. Okay, so we know it was a mistake, an individual error. We can debate, where certain things should have been positioned and players. And then again later, Martins red carded in the 76th minute, which altered the plans for a player named Keaton Parks. So addressed Nick Cushing about Keaton, who it's been a while, June 22nd since he last played. He underwent surgery on his calf, the right calf, same area as last year, to correct a blood clot. But Parks is back and available tonight. But here's exactly what Nick said about Keaton Parks and his availability. Do you anticipate Parks getting some minutes in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I said before, it's about trying to get him up to speed as quick as possible. And he would have came on in the Cincinnati game, but we lost the opportunity with the red card. We had to take Gabby and then play Andres and move Tavon inside. Otherwise, he would have gone on. We would have gave him 10 minutes in that game. So we missed the opportunity in the last game. So this one, for sure, it's a priority for me.
And Nick afterward said, the circumstances would have to be rather bizarre for Parks not to get into the game today. And I know you pointed to the brace around his knee or under his knee. That photo was from about 2 weeks ago at training. So I don't think he'll have a wrap on when he gets that opportunity in the second half today. So he's not prepared to start. One person that is, and who has gotten a couple of appearances recently and has earned the trust, at least somewhat, of Nick Cushing. But suspensions and injuries, like to Parks, are giving him little choice. Nico Acevedo, yellow card accumulation. Maxime Chanot, yellow card accumulation. And the aforementioned Martins, he had the red card on the Doxo, and he will be missing the game today. So here's Cushing on Zelalem. Gideon Zelalem getting the start, and you've pushed him through some minutes recently. So just to describe for a moment what your expectation is. Obviously, with all the different things happening in the midfield right now, Keaton Parks, I assume, will be on the bench again, but not available to start yet, that these are important moments for him. Yeah, these are the moments that every team goes through when you have injuries. You have those guys that maybe don't see so many minutes, but opportunities arise, and Gideon has to take the opportunity. He's had more minutes recently that he's seen maybe previously in the season, so he's trained well. He's in really good spirits, really motivated, and he knows he has an opportunity. And with so many games around the corner, and with Keaton's return and Alfredo is rehabbing strong, it's a good opportunity for Gideon. He's trained well this week. One thing of note there, Nick Cushing said Alfredo Morales' rehab is strong, so he's moving in a good direction as well. But today, obviously very light in the squad, and Zelalem will start in the midfield with Justin Hack, who simply got the night off Wednesday because of fatigue. He's played a lot of minutes in a role that he had not played significant minutes before this year. In fact, before recently, Justin Hack had become a regular in there after the injury to Alfredo Morales. So Zelalem, this is huge for him in a lot of different ways. But most importantly for the club, they've lost 6 of 7 coming in, and they're fairly desperate for 3 points.
They're absolutely desperate for 3 points. I don't think the manner of the performance matters one iota today. I think it all has to be all about getting 3 points. If it hits somebody's backside and goes into the back of the net and they win 1-0, that's fine.
That's right.
You'll take that, because it has been so bad. It's been desperate recently. In terms of results, not always the performance, but predominantly the performances as well as the results. And look, if you look down at the team, I think it would be remiss of us not to mention that the spine of the team is very weak and very inexperienced. The only experienced player in the whole spine of the team, we assume, is going to be Alex Carlins. When you've got 6 players in the spine of the team, the centre forward, 2 centre midfielders and 3 centre halves, and only one of them has really any modicum of experience, that's a worry. 5/6 of your spine of your team is inexperienced. If we add Sean Johnson to the spine as well, which I suppose we can, 2 of the 7 of the spine of the team have got experience in Carlins and Johnson.
Well, let's talk, now that we have the lineup, let's talk about it. It looks like a 3 at the back again, and it's going to be Latinovic, then Gray in the middle, and Collins on the left, Jason on the right, Malde Amundsen on the left. So it's a 3-back or 5-back system again. It'll be the 3rd consecutive game that Nick Cushing and New York City FC will be utilizing it. Nick feels like it's actually contributed to some more effective attack, and the defending has been more individual error-based rather than group defending-based. So they're going with it again.
Look, I agree with that. Most of the errors have been individual rather than cumulative of the whole defence. I'm not somebody who likes playing a back three. I hated playing a back three as a player, but maybe that's because I'm a bit more old school and I just liked the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1, or however it may be. I do think when you're playing against a team who aren't very good, and Charlotte aren't very good, who only play with one centre forward predominantly, you've got two centre halves standing around not doing a great deal. And quite often what happens is all three of you assume that somebody else is picking up the centre forward and the centre forward can break free. What it does say when you're playing with three against only one centre forward is Karlins and Latinovic, we assume they will be left and right of the three, have got to push on, have got to drive the attack themselves. They can't, all three of them, just be marking one man and not having any say in the attacking sense. So I think that's when you do see the back three split and almost play as a left back, a right back and a centre half, certainly when you're receiving the ball from Sean Johnson. Well, they have to make the game.
Yeah. And for the first time in his career, Tavon Gray will be marshalling the back line in the middle of a back three. New York City comes in with a record of 13-10-7, fourth place on 46 points in the East. That means they're in position to host a playoff game. They are in a 4-point lead over fifth place Orlando City, although Orlando has 2 games in hand. Nick Cushing, since replacing interim manager Ronnie Dyla, Cushing the interim manager, replacing Dyla, 5 wins, 7 losses, and 5 draws. As for Christian Latanzio, who was an assistant coach here under Patrick Vieira at New York City FC for the 2016-17 and part of the 18 season, and then went with Patrick to Nice in France and Ligue 1. Latanzio, he was also a mid-season replacement of a fired coach, just sacked. So Latanzio comes in, he was an assistant. His record is 5-9-1 as the replacement coach. He has a contract through the end of the year. So it's such a difficult fraternity, that coaching fraternity. And Christian, who we're all very fond of, was asked what he felt of his own plight here as the season continues.
I love this football club. I love the people that they are here. I love the players, as I said many times. But at the same time, I know that it's to a certain degree is out of my hands. What I can control, it's the way I work on a daily basis. And my conscience is very clear from that point of view. I give 100% to this football club every day. Then sometimes it can be enough, sometimes it might not be enough. And this is not down to me to judge that. It's to other people as well that will take decision. And I will respect any decision they will take. No problem. I will be always grateful to this football club, always. And so, but for now, we are very focused on the game. I can assure you that. And we want to make our fans really proud of the team that they support. This is, for me, the most important thing. And also the way they play, because it can be tempting to say, we win, it doesn't matter how. And for me, instead, no. And for me, it really important. It's important how you play. For me, it's very, very important that. And so this is my belief. This is my philosophy. It's very, very important how you play, not just the result.
So it's that's the conundrum sometimes, right? Yeah. Results versus how it looks or the way you want to play. Nick Cushing has gone through the same and trying to, with all these injuries and suspensions, to try to sort out his group in a manner where they will play effectively and get the points. Christian trying to do the same thing. Charlotte 10-17-2. They are on 32 points. And with 5 games remaining, including today's game, they're 7 points behind Cincinnati, the 7th place team in the Eastern Conference. Cincinnati with the 1-1 draw against New York City on Wednesday. Charlotte's last match was a 2-0 defeat at Cincinnati. So final words, Matty Lawrence, and then we'll prepare ourselves for the live commentary.
Well, hopefully all you can ask for from NYCFC is a result. And I know that's what they've been demanding from each other. I know that's the coaching staff have been demanding. I don't care about the performance today. It's just got to be about getting 3 points here against a Charlotte team that, as we know, pretty much one of the worst teams in MLS. They've lost as many games as DC United have, and DC United have been absolutely god-awful this season. This is a team in Charlotte that knows how to lose.
All right, he's Matty Lawrence. I'm Glenn Crooks, and it's a matinee on a Saturday. The first of many MLS games, but the second one kicking off, which will be Red Bulls playing at 6 o'clock. So all eyes are on Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, for those who follow MLS or follow New York City FC or Charlotte FC. I'm Glenn Crooks. Chris Sakonis will also be with us on the broadcast, hosting our halftime and postgame. It all starts at 12:45 Eastern, the pregame show with Nick Cushing, the head coach for New York City, presented by Ford. Enjoy the game, everybody.